This is the Canon EF 17 to 40mm f4L lens. It was introduced in 2003. I bought this example in 2004, but since I moved to an EOS M system in 2013, I've not used the lens, and I'll explain why I bought it and why I haven't used it for such a long time later in the video. Being an EF lens, the 17 to 40 can be used on cameras with full frame sensors, and in that case you get a focal length range of 17 to 40. If it's used on a camera with an APS-C sensor and a crop factor of 1.6, it becomes a 27.2 to 64mm lens. It's also the cheapest wide angle lens you can buy for a Canon full frame camera, being quite a bit cheaper than Canon's various 16 to 35 lens options. Firstly, I will take a closer look at the lens and then show you some sample images. The lens is 97mm long and maximum diameter is 84mm. The filter size is 77mm and it weighs half a kilogram. It's quite a heavy chunk of glass. Unlike most lenses these days, there's no image stabilization. On the outside of the lens there's a switch to switch between autofocus and manual focus. There's a distance scale, and there's a zoom ring at the back and a focusing ring at the front. Now I also use the EFS 10 to 22mm, and on that lens the zoom ring is at the front and the focusing ring is at the back, the opposite to this, which gets a little bit confusing sometimes. Unlike some cheaper lenses, the maximum and minimum apertures remain constant throughout the zoom range. The maximum aperture is f4 and the minimum aperture is f22. The minimum focusing distance is 28 centimeters, and Wikipedia tells me that this lens is parfocal, a term I haven't come across before. And what that means is that if you focus on a subject and then change the zoom length, the subject will remain in focus. Inside the lens there are 12 lens elements in 9 groups, and the diaphragm has 7 blades. The bokeh on this lens is quite exceptional. I'll show you an example in a few seconds. An ultrasonic motor drives the autofocus mechanism, and all of the focusing and zooming goes on inside. So externally there are no moving parts and nothing extends and nothing rotates. Being an L lens, this lens has Canon's famous red ring around the barrel. And what this means is that it's designed for professional work. So the construction is quite tough, so it can withstand knocks and bumps in the field. There's some weather sealing to keep out dust and rain. At the back there's a little holder for a gelatin filter. You see this white square. If you cut out a piece of gelatin you can slip that in. That's not something I've ever done. Generally the image quality is very good with L lenses, but not necessarily the best. I do have non-L lenses that have image quality as good, if not better, than this lens. As I said previously, the bokeh on this lens is exceptional. With other lenses, the outer focus points on the image start to look quite unattractive, and with some lenses you can actually start to see some really strange artifacts. With this lens there are no artifacts at all, and the outer focus points just blur softly into the background, and to my eye the bokeh on this lens looks absolutely perfect. With regard to sample images, please bear in mind what I said earlier about not having used this lens since I moved to an EOS M system. All of the sample images I'm going to show you were taken with either my Canon 10D or 40D. These are both very old cameras now that use old sensor technology, and the resolution was a lot smaller compared to cameras these days. The 10D sensor was only 6.3 megapixels, and the 40D sensor was only 10.1 megapixels. Now on to why I bought this lens and why I haven't used it for a long time. In the early 1980s, I started using Canon film cameras, the Canon A1 and T90, which were very well-made cameras. In 2000, I was given as a gift one of the first digital cameras, a Sony DSC P1. I understand that Sony make good cameras these days, but that DSC P1 was pretty awful in terms of image quality, autofocus, battery life, etc., etc. But it did give me an idea of the potential of digital cameras. But what I really wanted was a digital version of my A1 or T90. Digital SLRs were horrendously expensive in 2000, but in 2003 Canon announced the first affordable DSLR, the Canon 300D. The 300D was a camera that I was very interested in, but when I actually got my hands on it, it felt like a plastic toy, and I wanted something more along the lines of my A1 or T90. The alternative at the time was the Canon 10D. It used the same sensor, but it was a lot better built, and it was also a lot more expensive. The 10D didn't come in kit form. You had to buy a separate lens, and I just wanted a standard zoom lens for everyday photography, and the 1740, which had come out a year earlier, seemed to be the ideal lens. So that's how I ended up with the Canon EF 17-40. The reason I haven't used it for a long time is because there came a point in my life when I got fed up carrying around bulky, heavy SLR equipment. I just wanted a light kit, which is why I moved to EOS M. And I could have continued using the 17-40 using the adapter, but the little EFM 18-55 gives me all I want. The image quality is fine, it weighs almost nothing, it's small, and there was just no need to continue using the 17-40. Finally, would I recommend this lens? And it really depends. If you're an EOS M shooter, like me, just stick with the EFM lenses. They're very high image quality, very small and very light. If you're an APS-C SLR shooter, just stick with the latest EFS 18-55. There's a quiet stepper motor for autofocus, its image stabilization and image quality is very good. With full frame, the 16-35 lenses are very nice. The f2.8 is a stop faster, and the f4 has image stabilization, which the 17-40 doesn't. The 17-40 is the cheapest wide-angle lens for full frame cameras, and it's a cheaper alternative to the 16-35 lenses. The only reason I've hung on to my 17-40, despite not using it for a long time, is in case I move to full frame in the future. I'm not interested in buying another DSLR camera, but I quite like the look of Canon's new full frame cameras with an RF mount, and I'll be able to use this lens with a suitable adapter. I hope this has been a useful overview. If it has, please consider subscribing to my channel, and there should be more videos coming up soon. Thanks for watching.